thing is, and the last thing I want to mention to you is this. I tell my daughter the same thing. Going to college is not hobby. We parents spend money, you graduate, you want to make lots of what? Money. Because if you have money, you have what? Hobby. If you don't have money, believe it or not, ask your parents, there is no hobby. That much, okay? So, if you stay in science, math, science, engineering, in any of them, I guarantee you, by the time you graduate, instead of you begging for a job, they are coming after you to hire you, and they give you plenty of money so you could buy a car or a cruise for your parents with your first 2 checks, okay? Thank you and welcome to MTSU.
Now I'm going to let Jamie Taylor introduce our keynote speaker.
Good morning, everyone. It's really great to see everybody here this early. Our keynote speaker received her Bachelor of Science degree from Stetson University in DeLand, Florida. She went on to complete a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine with emphasis on small animal medicine and surgery from the University of Florida College of Veterinary Medicine in Gainesville, Florida. From 1997 to 1998, she worked as an associate veterinarian at Animal Care Clinic here in Murfreesboro. She currently works as a full-time professor here in the biology department at MTSU. Her classes include Human Anatomy and Physiology Lecture and Lab, Comparative Vertebrate Anatomy Lab, Histology Lab, and Exploring Life, Current Issues in Biology and Society Lecture. I am honored to introduce her today as a pre-vet person myself. Please welcome Dr. Amy Massengill.
Hi. Give me just a minute here. Switch over. There we go. All right. Thank you. Dr. Gross, what time you need me to be done? 9:04. Okay. All right. I'm Dr. Massengill, and I am so glad to see you. Thank you so much for being here. How many of you have seen me in Wheezy in the last couple of years? Anybody been here before and did my workshop with Wheezy? It's up there, Dr. Massengill and Wheezy. I have bad news. Wheezy is vomiting this morning. Yeah, I didn't think you wanted to see her up here, showing everything. Wheezy is not my dog, actually. She belongs to a friend of mine who called me this morning, very apologetic. I said, what do you do? The dog's sick, can't do much about that. I have cats at home, and trust me, you didn't want me bringing the cats in here because it just wouldn't have been good. So, unfortunately, I don't have a cute little dog here to show, but I hope that you'll enjoy things that I have to say anyway. 14 years? I've been doing this 13. Of the 14. Where did the time go? I couldn't, when you said 14, I thought there's no way in the world. But I've been involved with the EYH for 13 of the 14 years. Before I had my own children, and I had girls, so it made me even more excited about doing it. Jamie told you a lot about me. I am a veterinarian, yet I teach here full-time, which is a little unusual, but I think it gives a little bit of advantage to some of my students because I bring a clinical knowledge to human anatomy and physiology. And then the question always is asked, why are you teaching human A&P if you're a vet? And the answer is, we walk on 2 legs, they walk on 4, and that's about the difference. That really is about it when it comes to dogs and cats. So I do love my time here. You've heard the praises sung about the university. I'm not going to do that anymore, but it really is just a fabulous place. I've been married for almost 15 years. I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old daughter. So I have a vested interest in what you're doing. Don't know if they're going to end up going into the sciences or not. Who knows? But at least I love to know that there's these types of opportunities to kind of push them that way. I don't even know when I'm going to do this, so thank you. As much as I appreciate it, yeah. Oh, there's Wheezy. There she is. Anybody know what she is? Oh, not a bulldog, but I heard it, a Boston Terrier, which is kind of, they've got the smush face, right? They're so ugly, they're cute kind of thing, right? So there's Wheezy. Way back when, look here, Dr. Gross, remember Goliath? Yeah, you all probably weren't around when I used Goliath sometimes too. That's kind of a fuzzy picture. Can you tell what Goliath is? A miniature Doberman Pinscher. I think I heard some of you say it. You can't tell from that picture, but he's about this tall. Goliath is in puppy heaven now. He's no longer with us, but I used him for a while and then went to Wheezy. So anyway, yeah, I just had to show off some of the cute puppies there. You know, things are improving when it comes to women in science. You know, they really are. I'm kind of the generation, when I graduated from college and when I graduated from vet school, I was sort of at the turning point. It was right when I was coming into school that it started being okay for women to do pretty much anything they wanted to do. The generation right before me was starting to make some strides, but wasn't quite there yet. The generation before that, not so much. Okay, but I am right at the beginning of the, hey, it's okay for women to do all these things. But as I was kind of, just going over things in my brain and trying to think about what to talk with you about, I was chatting with my department chair, the chair of the biology department here at MTSU, Dr. George Murphy. And he is a generation older than I am. His children are not quite as old as me, but he has adult children, so he's older than I am. And he has been here at MTSU 35 years, something like that. He's been at MTSU a good long time. And I told him, hey, I'm kind of talking about these things. And he said, well, I've got some stories, some anecdotes. I was like, let me have them, And he was telling me about times when the women here at MTSU, if they were walking from class to class and they had their gym clothes on, they had to wear a raincoat because you couldn't be seen in shorts walking across campus. And now that sounds just foreign. I'm not suggesting you go out in little tiny short shorts, okay? Don't get me wrong. But, it seems kind of foreign to us that would happen. Another professor of biology, she's retired now. She's no longer at the university, but she was here for a good long time, and she taught biology as well. Her name is Dr. Sarah Barlow. I remember that she told me a story when she taught high school before she went on to get her doctorate and come here to MTSU. She taught high school, and she told me about the time when she was in the high school setting, and this probably would have been in, I would say, probably 1960s, maybe the late 60s. She was not allowed to tell anybody that she was pregnant with her children, and she had to hide it. Can you imagine? You've seen women who are really pregnant out to here and can hardly, and she had to hide it because it was, no, women can't do that. You can't have, can't even talk about that sort of thing. And so there came a point where she had to stop teaching because she just simply couldn't hide the fact that she was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, these days, goodness, I taught a lecture class and had a child 2 days later, and had to get someone to cover my final for me one year, so it certainly, things have certainly changed, and I'm thankful for that. I really am very thankful for that. I wanted to kind of show you some numbers here. That red line up at the top is a little hard to see, sorry about that. But let me show you what this graph is showing you. Bachelor degrees in science and engineering, and this included everything. This took in all of the biological, chemical, physical sciences. This included all of the engineering fields. This included math. I think this might have even included psychology. So pretty much anything that you could imagine it included. And can you see the red line? It's kind of dark. It's a little hard to see up there, but there's a red line up there, and you see that the years down here start at 1983, which is well before any of you, and goes all the way up here to, I think it went to 2002 or 2003, over on the right side. The red line is the percentage of men. This is the percentage of people who are receiving college degrees who are getting them in a science or math field. Or an engineering field. And so the red line is showing you the percentage of men, the yellow line showing you the percentage of women. It's not a huge jump, but it's a jump. It is still an increase, there's no doubt, and a decrease on the men's side. The next graph is a similar graph. This is showing you doctorate degrees, though. Again, starting way over here at 1983, going up there to 2003. The percentage of doctorate degrees that are in the science fields. And that's a significant improvement. I mean, that's, you're looking at like a 15% increase in the women there. The men went up as well, but the curve is not as steep for the men. It wasn't as much of an increase as it was for the women. Now, this does not include, this graph is not talking about medical degrees. Okay, this was strictly PhDs, which you would use to either perhaps do research or do teaching or something like that. This was not, so I'm sure if you added in medical degrees, you'd have even more of an upswing, because women are doing that a lot more as well. And this one blew my mind, quite honestly, when I saw it. Let me show you what this one is all about, this graph. Down at the bottom, you see we're starting way over here at 1973, way before any of you guys. Okay, way over here at 73 and going all the way to 2005. And from top to bottom, these are all of the PhDs. Do you know what that means? PhD stands for Doctor of Philosophy. Now, that doesn't mean that you have a philosophy degree. It is considered, in most cases, the most advanced degree that you can get in your field. If you are not a medical doctor, a veterinary doctor like I am, something along those lines, chances are you have the letters PhD after your name. If you want to teach at a university, that's usually the degree you attain. If you want to do research with a big corporation, sometimes that's the degree you need to attain. So this is showing you all of the PhDs that have been received, and it's hard to see up there, it says from U.S. universities. All of the blue is men. And there's a couple of little tiny colors in there with some different demographics, but really what it comes down to is the blue, and the little bit of green there in the middle is representing men. And then this kind of orange color down here and the dark purple in the middle, that's women. And take a look at that curve. Okay, and how many, way back here in 1973, 78% of people getting doctorate degrees were men. Now we're over here, and it's less than half. Now it's actually women who are getting more doctoral degrees than men. So, that's astounding, I think. That's what, 30, 40, that's 30 years about, just a little over 30 years, and the change that has occurred, which is pretty amazing. I graduated from college in 1993. I graduated from vet school in 1997. And as I said, that was kind of the switchover period there. My class, my veterinary class, we entered in 1993, way before any of you guys, but we entered in 1993. My class was the first class that had more women in it than men. Okay, the first class in the University of Florida that had more women in it than men. And it was barely, I think we had like 1 or 2 women more, something like 52% or something like that. Now, I didn't have a chance to call the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, which is where the veterinary college is here in the state. Didn't have a chance to call them, but I understand that the percentage is ridiculously in favor of women. Favor of women, that sounds bad, but skewed towards women. It's something like 80 or 85% of the entering class this year is women. I know that the medical school at ETSU, I know that this year, the freshman class right now, slightly more women. It's not a huge amount, over 50%, but it is. I have a student who is there, a former student, who is a freshman at ETSU in medical school this year, and she told me I've got a few more women in my class than I do men. I think that what's happening, and I'm talking more about medical field because that's what I'm in, but I think in that particular area, what's happening is that women have always been the caregivers. Back in my parents' time, your grandparents' time, if you wanted to go to college as a woman, you could be what? Give me some things. You could be a nurse, you could be what? A teacher, and I'm thinking one more thing. A secretary. That was pretty much it, right? You've got it. You've got it. You could be a nurse, you could be a secretary, you could be a teacher. Now, please hear me. There's nothing wrong with any of those. What would we do without nurses, secretaries, and teachers? Administrative assistants, I guess I should say now, right? But what would we do without them? I mean, we have to have them, but my point is that was all. Those are the only choices that women 40 years ago had. And now to think that you've got all these women who are amazing caregivers who are now able to get into the medical fields. Someone mentioned earlier, with one of the engineers who was up here earlier, mentioned about women being fantastic problem solvers. They are. They are. Not that men can't be, but it's something ingrained in our DNA that we're good problem solvers. And so the fact that that's translating over into the sciences as well. Something that a lot of people, we've been talking a lot about, women this and women that and women this. I don't want to discount the men in this conversation, okay? Because when you're in a field like I am, and you give a lot of talks like this, these types of speeches like I do, you're always asked, who were your mentors? Who were the people that made the biggest influence on you? And as I go through my mind and think about my life, my mentors have pretty much all been men, quite honestly. And again, that's because I was coming into a field where there weren't a lot of women. And I want to make sure that you understand that this is not a male bashing conference. Okay, that's not our point. A lot of us are married. We like men very much, at least one of them, okay? And this is not meant to be, down with men, up with women. That's not the point. But the point is, let's encourage the women to do things they couldn't do before. I had a professor in college my freshman year. I took Calculus 2, because I took calculus in high school, and I took the test. Y'all familiar with the advanced placement tests and dual enrollment and that kind of thing? Got out of Calculus 1. My advisor who was signing me up said, you would do, how about Calculus 2? You got an A in Calculus 1 in high school, let's take Calculus 2. I didn't have to have it. I didn't know that I didn't have to have it. I took a 5-hour Calculus 2 class for an elective. I don't suggest that. But my professor was Dr. Bratton, and I can still see him. This was 20 years ago. Can still see him, and he was the best professor I had in college because he taught me how to think. And I know that sounds bizarre. You're thinking, of course I know how to think, okay? But he taught me how to think. He taught me how to reason. He taught me how to not just spit out answers to him, not just memorize stuff, but actually think through it. My major professor was Dr. Peter May, again, a man. The college I went to a very small school that none of you have heard of unless you've ever been to Florida. Stetson University was smaller than my high school. My college was smaller than my high school. There were no women in the biology. I was a biology major with a chemistry minor. There were no women in either. There were no women in physics either, for that matter. All three of the in the basic science building, there were no women professors. So I didn't have a chance really to have a woman as my mentor. Dr. Peter May was my advisor. Why he was such an influence to me is he didn't bat an eyelash when I said, yeah, I want to be a veterinarian. Never once did I get the, oh, you can't do that. How are you going to do that? You're this, and I was a whole lot smaller then. You're this tall, you're this big. How in the world can you handle those animals, and how in the world do you think you can be a veterinarian? He said, okay, let's do it. And the veterinarian that I shadowed under in high school and college was a man. And again, it's not. I want you to understand it's okay to have male role models. What you want are male role models who are going to then encourage you. Now, when I came here to teach, I mentioned a minute ago my colleague, Dr. Sarah Barlow. She is a woman that I would put under my mentors. When I came here, she had been here a long time. She kind of took me under her wing, if you will. I'm about the age of her children, so she was comfortable with that. And she kind of taught me the ropes, and I would, that first year, I would take my lectures to her and have her look them over, and I would write my test, and I would take it to her and say, is this too easy? Is this too hard? Am I doing it right? Because that first year in anything, you don't know what you're doing, kind of having to learn your way. So she certainly was an influence in me in education. But before that, not a whole lot of female role models. You will have more, and that's fantastic. Because now here at MTSU, I don't know the statistics off of my top of my head. I should have looked that up. But we've got a whole lot of women professors in the sciences. In fact, let me show you my next slide here. This proves that. Okay, this is showing you the increase in the percentages of female university professors. So we've got kind of these two lines together. The blue line represents the percentage of women in 2002, And the purple line represents the percentage of women in 2007. And you can see here that we've got chemistry, math, computer science, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, physics, civil engineering, chemical engineering, astronomy, and biology. That's obviously not everything, but those are just a few, some of the disciplines that I could find statistics for. And you can see that in every single one of those, you've got an increase in the 5-year span between 2002 2007, an increase in the number of women who are teaching at the university level. Now, not everybody in here is going to teach at the university level. I get that. Okay, but this just goes to show, along with all the other slides, that we are seeing more and more women enter the science field. Back there in a minute. It's not easy, okay? I'm not going to paint a rosy picture for you. It's not easy. Who up here earlier said, don't quit? That was an engineer too, wasn't it? Yeah, who was saying, I'm so glad you... And I called my college professors too when I was in grad school. I called a couple of them and said, wow, am I glad you made that course? My microbiology professor, I called him, said, I'm so glad you made that course so tough. Because if you hadn't made it tough for me in college and made me work, I would be drowning right now in grad school. But I wasn't. It's tough. It's a tough road. But it's no tougher for you than it is for a man. No tougher for you than it is for a man. Okay? It doesn't matter. And women were for so long told, hey, we can't do this, you can't do this. And now we know, hey, guess what? You can do this. I just had some pictures to show you here. I found these and I was so excited about them. I was like, oh, I got to show these. Look at that thing. All right, just to show you a little bit of what might go on in vet school. These are pictures from my experience in vet school. So you see that person who looks like me but looks a whole lot younger than me. That is me 20 years ago or so. Want to guess what I'm doing there? You have any idea what I'm doing to that pig? Not giving a shot, but something else with a needle. What do you think? Drawing blood. That's exactly what I do. Yeah, he was not real thrilled with that, but you know, what do you do? That's one of my professors sitting right there in front of me, a man, right? Anyway, drawing blood from a pig. I love that picture. This is one of my favorite pictures ever that was taken. That's me on the right. I know it doesn't look like me anymore, but it is. That's me on the right, and one of my best friends on the left. She was one of my bridesmaids in my wedding. I love this picture because, I mean, it just kind of encompasses vet school for one. What we were doing is doing a physical exam on this dog before we did surgery, and this was our first time ever. This was in a surgery class sophomore year, and it was the first time we'd ever done surgery. One thing I love about this picture is you've got two women there. And going back to that caretaker aspect, you know, we're wired that way. It's part of the maternal instinct, I think. And I realize not every grown woman in here has children, and not every one of you is going to have children, and that's fine. But there is a maternal caretaker instinct that we have as women, and I think that picture shows it. You know, the way that we're kind of bending over the dog and taking care of it. And then you go into surgery. And if you look around there a little bit, even in that class, I see, that's not the entire class, but in that picture, I see two men. I know you can't see real well. Of course, obviously, I know all these people. So I know who's who, but in that whole group there, I see there's a real tall guy kind of in the foreground, and then there's another one way in the back that I see, and everybody else is women, so kind of showing you the turnaround. In fact, just kind of a little side note, this lady who's kind of facing you, she's doing surgery, she's looking down, she's cutting into something. That's not me. I'm not in this picture. This is just kind of a general picture of my class. That lady, you can't see, but she's sitting on a stool because she was about 5 months pregnant at that time. In the middle of vet school, doing surgery. That never would have happened 30 years ago. Never. Even if there had been a woman in the vet school class, there's no way. Okay, maybe 40, 50 years ago. It never would have happened. She would not have been allowed to have finished. You know, but she did. She took her maternity time off, and she came back in and started again, and it was pretty amazing. Isn't that cool? It's just kind of cool. I know. I'm, you know, I'm medical geek, so there we are doing our first surgery. And you know, and as I looked at this picture, and I know that's really, really dark, but that's me, and you can't tell because I've got the, you know, surgical garb on and everything, and bending down over, and that was literally the first time that I ever cut into an animal. That right there, and I'm so thankful that my friend who was doing the anesthesia on the dog was taking these pictures because she didn't have to have all the gloves on and everything. And she snapped this, and I'm so glad that she did, because it's that first cut in, and when I see that picture, what came to my mind is, look what we can do now. You know, look what we can do now. That picture, if you asked your grandparents, showed them that picture, they never in a million years would have dreamed that they would have seen a woman dressed in full surgical attire doing surgery, because it just didn't happen. And now we don't think anything of it, right? You have doctors, and it's a man, it's a woman, it doesn't matter. You have some of each. Your pediatrician might be a man, might be a woman. You may have an orthodontist, either way, dentist, either way. It just doesn't matter anymore. But it used to matter. And so this was kind of the turning point, and it's neat that it doesn't matter anymore. I'm going to wrap up just by saying I'm so glad you're here. I hope that you continue. If this is your first year, please come back. Okay? Understand that this program is not the same year to year. Okay, it's not one of these things where, hey, you can do it once and then you're done and don't do it again, because you've got tons of workshops to choose from. I want to thank, I see a lot of familiar faces in here, my students, and because obviously teaching the sciences, and I want to thank all of the MTSU students, men and women. There are men in here as well, did you notice? Couple of guys in here who are helping us out, because they believe that, hey, women should have the same chances. So I want to thank the students of MTSU particularly for giving up your precious Saturday, your precious study time. Some of you probably have tests on Monday, because I'm giving one. So you're giving up your time to do this, and I think that's fabulous. And I'm so glad you're here. Have a good time. Have a good time today, and I'll hang around for a little bit if you got any questions for me. But Dr. Gross, thank you. I'm honored to have been a part of this. I appreciate it.
Do we have any questions?
I
would like to thank Dr. Massengale for her time to come here today and share everything that she shared with us. We'd like to thank you. We also have something to give her. and we have a dog bone for Wheezy, so we hope he feels better.
dog bone.
All right.
Oh, thank you.
Let's give her another round of applause.
I want to introduce you to a bunch of a group of women here that are from the engineering company, and here is Janet, and she will be happy to talk to you all and introduce to you all these ladies from the engineering company.
Hi girls, hope you having a good time today. I'm Janet Bryan. If you're here earlier, I'm from Nissan North America in Smyrna. It's the manufacturing facility. We have We have two facilities in the United States, plus an engine facility here and in Canton, Mississippi. So Nissan is relatively new to the automotive market in the United States compared to most places in Detroit. So in the South is starting to be a bigger presence in the automotive market in South Carolina, Hyundai, Mercedes, so on. So all of these ladies are chemical or statistics or all kinds of varied degrees. So obviously you don't have to be unattractive to be an engineer. Aren't they adorable? Also, the research shows that girls don't choose those fields because they think they're not very glamorous. That's not true. You can be smart, you can be cute, and you can drive a sports car, and you can have a 3-figure salary. The world doesn't rotate around money, but money and education open up a lot of doors. Education will open up a lot of doors for you. So anyway, I would like to introduce each of them, and then they'll tell you a little bit about themselves. So please ask them all the things you ever want to know about career that may typically be a man's world. Allison Bailey, Jennifer Kaufman, Lisa Hauser, and Ashley Gatlin. So please give them a round of applause and listen to their educational journeys.
As Janet said, my name is Allison Bailey, and I got my degree from Tennessee Tech, just down the road, in industrial engineering. And I work at Nissan as a safety and ergonomics engineer. And I started actually back in 1996. I haven't been there that long. I've been off and on. And the reason, I'll just go ahead and, do y'all mind if I go ahead and say? I graduated from college in 1994, and then I started a job. And shortly after I began working at Nissan, I got to have a child. And this is my second child. My first child is at a soccer team. He's at a soccer game right now. But I worked at Nissan for about 5 years, and then I left to stay home with my daughter for the next 7 years. And so I'm just very happy to say that I got to come back to Nissan and back to the safety department. And now my daughter is in the 2nd grade and son is in the 5th grade. And that's just a little bit about my personal life, and I'm just going to pass it on, or I'll keep the microphone the whole hour. So here's Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer Kaufman, and I'm a chemical engineer with a master's in safety and ergonomics from MTSU, and my engineering degree was from Tennessee Tech. And I live here close on a farm, and I have 2 children as well and a family. And I chose this because I really liked, this is going to sound strange, science and math in high school. And so I worked with my professors in high school, and they guided me in this direction to go into the chemical engineering. And then later on, after getting out and working at Bridgestone Firestone for about 8 years, I decided I wanted to go back in the safety world. And so I went back and got my master's in safety. So that's how I ended up working for Nissan.
Hi, ladies. My name is Lisa Hauser. I actually am originally from Richmond, Virginia, and I'm fairly new to Nissan. I'm working over at the Smyrna plant as a manufacturing manager, but I've had an illustrious career, even though I'm not that old. I went to college at the College of William & Mary, and I actually majored in finance and economics, and went to work for IBM out in California, and thereby got a minor in computer science, and worked there for a total of 5 years, and then decided I want to change. I want to do something different. I want a different challenge. So my little message to you is that you don't have to have it all figured out. Never rule anything out. Know the importance that math and science, as well as any degree, gives you a lot of flexibility. So I actually just completed last year my master's in business administration up in Chicago. And I had a concentration in decision sciences, so that's how you use statistics and math and probabilities to make business decisions. And that warranted me this opportunity. So I'm in this great program that Nissan offers called the Nissan Rotational Development Program, and I get a new job basically every 9 to 15 months, and right now I'm running the line, and I'm getting to work with these fabulous ladies like Janet and my panel here. So I couldn't be more excited to talk to you about the importance of going to school and being interested in math and science. And what else was I going to say? I was going to say something else kind of witty. Oh, it asked us for stuff we like to do in our spare time. I actually am not a mom. I'm delaying my family a little bit. I do have a fiance. I'm going to get married next year. But I was going to say, thank you. Thank you. But by having this flexibility, as well as the money that comes along with finishing your degree and potentially pursuing a master's, is I love to travel. I love to cook. I've been all over the world, and I've lived in a lot of different places, and that's an opportunity that you too can pursue. So I'm going to hand it off.
Hello, my name is Ashley Gatlin. I'm glad that all of y'all are here today. My hometown is Nashville, and I work